Welcome to the Ditch the Struggle podcast. I'm your host, Alana Rosso. I'm a graphic designer turned career and success coach who knew I could do better, but kept falling short of where I wanted to go. But after years of exploring personal and career development, business, money mindset, and energy work, I'm here to tell you that yes, you can move from stuck and defeated to empowered and confident. Ready to dive in? Awesome. Together, let's ditch the struggle. Hi everyone, welcome back. I want to talk today about the walking challenge that I just completed. So it is not an episode though about fitness, getting your steps in. I'm never going to talk about that stuff. That's not part of my lane. That's not my wheelhouse. But I do want to talk about consistency and making your goals smaller. So if you don't even want to listen to the whole episode, my recommendation, advice, suggestion, something to think about is making your goals smaller so that you can actually achieve them, which is what I did. So for 365 days a year, I got up every day and did a 2-kilometer walk. So that's very short. That's about a mile. So that is not a long distance. And I did that intentionally. I decided that this was going to be a short distance so that I would be more likely to complete it. Because what do we as humans do? We often make goals so big and kind of daunting, and then we're less likely to complete it. And I was hell-bent on completing this 365-day walking challenge. I wanted to do it every day to prove to myself that I could be consistent, committed, disciplined. I don't really resonate with the word discipline, but I suppose it's in there, right? I had to do it. And while it was a short distance, there were a lot of days I did not want to do anything, either because of my knee acting up or the weather was awful. Like we had a pretty rough winter in Toronto. I remember one day it was like hail, sleet, crazy snow, like insane wind. And I was halfway through this short walk and Deck calls me and I thought, oh my gosh, is something wrong? And he's like, do you need me to pick you up? It's insane out there. And I was like, no, we're fine. I'm just going to keep going. I'm halfway through. The black ice days, though, those were brutal. That terrifies me because, I had a few wipeouts for sure. So, but I made the goal small. And I did this intentionally because I was more likely to complete it. And I knew that if I had a smaller goal and completed it, I would feel good about it. And so at the end of the day, now that I've done it, I'm still walking actually, but I did complete it last week. It feels really good. Of course, it's going to feel good to have done that. And if I had done, let's say, a 5-kilometer walking goal, which really wasn't part of my physical bandwidth, and I had to be really honest about my physical bandwidth, which was hard because back in the day, I would have walked 5 kilometers a day and it'd be amazing. This was not really an option for me right now. And interestingly, when I posted on Instagram that I had completed this small 2-kilometer a day challenge, someone messaged me and they're like, oh, I was doing something similar, but it was 5 kilometers. Maybe I need to make it smaller. And I'm like, it's something to consider. But why don't we make our goals smaller? Because we're going to tell ourselves that it's not enough. It's not enough steps. I'm not doing enough. It's lame. There's so much judgment that comes up. And I was like, I'm rejecting all of that. I'm rejecting all of that because the act of walking is actually almost more important than the amount of steps I take. And it reminds me of something that I understood and came to understand about finances. And this is an interesting perspective that helped me when I was younger, is that it's the act of saving that is more important than how much you save. Now, a lot of financial people would probably disagree because obviously there's a big difference between saving $5 a week and, $500 a week. But it's putting yourself first. And so it's the act of like, okay, I'm worth putting $10 or $5 a week and paying myself first. That is just such a huge acknowledgement of your worth. And so I took that same perspective and that same concept and applied it to the walking. And I was like, no, I'm putting myself first by just doing this small walk a day. And it's a long game to me. It's like if I'm the person that walks a minimum of 2 kilometers a day. So some days I did more if I was having a good body day or I was meeting a friend and we were doing a little bit of a longer walk. But that was my minimum. So that was my absolute minimum. when I stayed consistent and kept going and did that, I knew I would feel better at the end of the year. And also, again, to that long game idea, if I'm the person that walks 2 kilometers a day, 10 years from now, and I'm still doing that, am I going to be a healthier, happier version of myself than if I didn't do that, or if I just walked 5 kilometers a day once a week? To me, the answer is yes. And so I was looking at the long game. I am looking at my health in a very different perspective now because as you get older, you just do. And I, over the years read things that it's better to kind of do 20 minutes of exercise every day than just like one long workout a week and things like that. So I was like, I'm going to make this a small challenge. And the whole inspiration came from the manifesting coach named Kathleen Cameron, who posted on Instagram. She's like, I'm going to do this 365-day walking challenge. I was like, hey, I'm in. I don't know why I decided to just do it, but I did. I'd been wanting to walk more consistency for a long time. I'd had that conversation actually with my naturopath back in 2023. We were kind of thinking of a strategy for me to get out of the house more in the afternoon. I was really good about doing some exercise in the morning, but in the afternoons, you start to turn into a pretzel because you're on Zoom all day. I'm in Photoshop, whatever it is. And I needed to get out of the house. And so that idea kind of started percolating in 2023. And so part of what made this successful, I'm going to just kind of give you some tips as to how this helped me, was to be strategic about how I was doing this. So I did not have a set time that I was doing this. It was usually in the morning because I like to get the morning sun into my body and into my eyes as well. So it's really great to do that. But some days it just wasn't possible. However, some days I had to go out at 6 o'clock in the morning in the winter. That was difficult. So even though it was a small goal, it was still challenging. There were days I didn't want to leave the house. There were some days my schedule was so insane. It was 8 o'clock at night or 9 o'clock at night even before I could do this. So who really wants to do a walk at 8 o'clock at night in the middle of winter in Toronto? Not many people. So it was hard some days. But so I didn't have a set time for doing it, but it was usually the morning. I had decided on a route that I loved. And I pretty well did the same route every single day, unless, again, I was traveling or I was meeting a friend. But for the most part, it was like, okay, this is the route that I love. It had 2 hills on it, so I knew I was getting a little bit of resistance there. And then I was going into a park that I absolutely adore. So there's so many beautiful parks in Toronto. And unfortunately, near us, there's this great park that has tons of mature trees, and there's a hill on it that there's benches on it. So I would go into the park, I would walk around, and I would go onto the bench, and I usually did a 10-minute meditation in the middle of my walk, or just sit and stare at trees. I'm totally declaring staring at trees an official hobby. I love it. I would really try and connect to nature. I would sometimes just sit there and think, just think about my life and reflect on things. Reflection is so important, and for your nervous system, it's absolutely imperative. So I picked a place and a route that I loved, and I was excited to go and see every single day. There was also tons of dogs that there's a kind of off-leash section. So I would socialize with all these local dogs. So there was a real draw to go there every day because I wanted to see these dogs. I wanted to see the trees. I just wanted to get to this space. So that was key, is finding a route that I loved. Again, I didn't have a set time that I was doing that every day. That was like too much pressure. And I made it short. So it was totally achievable. It was accessible. It was doable, right? And I knew that I could do this if I just it was one walk at a time, just kept going, right? The other thing that made the whole experience much more enjoyable to me is it was my time to listen to audiobooks for the most part. Some days I would be in the mood to just not listen to anything and just have total quiet. But I got really into audiobooks, I think in 2017 when I had to start commuting from Toronto to Mississauga, which is just a brutal drive. And now the drive is just insane. So through the library app, I don't use Audible. I just use my library card, which is free. I mean, we're paying for it, but it's free to have the library access. I got really into audiobooks. And so for me, this walk was audiobook time, and not necessarily listening to podcasts. I do listen to a lot of podcasts, but not on these walks. I really wanted to get deep into story and to have that feeling of escape. And I was really looking for funny stories. So like humor is my love language, and I'm just trying to infuse it into my life more to raise my vibration, just like escape this crazy world. So this was my time to listen to really great audiobooks and get really into it. And so my motivation sometimes would be like, oh, I can't wait to listen to the story to keep going. So I'm just going to get going and moving because I can't really listen to audiobooks while I'm doing anything else, only when I'm driving or when I'm walking. So when I'm working, I can't really listen to audiobooks. It's too distracting for me. So this was my time to like enjoy my stories. So that really helped the motivation. That really kind of got me out. I was excited. And again, the whole thing was totally accessible. Now, an interesting thing happened to me a couple of weeks ago. I was at a women's retreat, and there was a lovely woman there who not only had ran a marathon, but had ran 6. So she has actually received what's called the Abbott Medal. So here I am just about to finish my walking challenge, which is a mile a day. And this woman's like consistently running 26 miles. And it would have been really easy to just compare myself, to feel bad about my accomplishment, to diminish my accomplishment. And I instantly was like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not comparing myself. And I talk about this in episode 18. I talk about when I joined Toastmasters, and there was a moment when someone in our Toastmasters group was delivering his speech, and it was so amazing, and it was so energetic, and he was like a Tony Robbins on steroids. And I was watching him, and I had to go after him. And I was like, oh my God, I cannot do as well as this guy. And then I pretty well instantly pulled myself back, and I was like, no, I'm not him. I can only do me. I can only do my version of this. And I have been kind of thinking that way ever since. I just generally don't compare myself to others. I don't get upset about it. And I'm pretty honest with myself about my bandwidth, what I can do. And it's exciting to see someone accomplish something like that. But right now, that's not where I'm meant to be. That's not part of my path. So I really didn't bring myself down, because it would be, when you tell people you're just walking 2 kilometers a day, they're like, oh, well, that's just like a few steps. Yeah. But how many people are actually doing that consistently? And I always say consistency for the win. And so I wanted to prove to myself that I could be committed. I wanted to prove to myself that I could be consistent and disciplined. And I don't really resonate with that word discipline, but that was part of what I had to do, because most people are not consistent. Most people are not committed, and most people are not disciplined. That's the observation that I make. And I do not want to be like most people. I also want to prove to myself that I can honor the agreements I make with myself. And this is about rewiring your brain. This is creating safety within your brain. Like, you will show up for yourself. And I did not show up for myself so much when I was growing up, and I would kind of self-sabotage. And so to me, this walking challenge was the complete antithesis of self-sabotage. It was like the whole opposite, the 180 of that, because I was doing something that was good for my mind, body, spirit. There's no denying that walking every day is good for you, even if it's a short distance. So I had to have that belief in myself to kind of keep going. I had to have a reason. I had to have the motivation. And I really wanted this consistency piece. To me, it's like I have found such a benefit from when I show up consistently for myself, for others. Any kind of exercise, we know that. I don't even call it exercise. I like to call it movement. Any type of movement that's consistent is good, right? So as I said, it was actually tough some days. I remember one day I was having a bit of a moment, feeling sorry for myself and just really not enjoying the walk because it was physically uncomfortable. And the funniest thing happened. This woman comes like near my house, and a woman comes running after me. She must have been like 75, maybe even 80, small woman, probably way more fit than me when I looked at her. And she's like, excuse me, excuse me, excuse me. And I had my headphones in and my wired headphones. I do not, under any circumstances, use wireless earbuds. That's like putting your head in a microwave. So let's not do that. And she stops me and she's like, I see you walking every single day, and I just wanted to say, good for you. That's great. And I've never seen this woman before in my life. I've lived in my neighborhood for 15 years. I don't know who she was. And I was just so taken aback. I was like, oh, thank you so much. She's like, yeah, just keep going. And I thought, this is maybe 3 months into this walking challenge. And I thought, this is so odd. It really did kind of feel like this weird little like nudge from the universe to be just like, keep doing this. And I've never seen her since. I don't know who this woman was. I don't know who she is. Never seen her since. So I just kept going is what I kept doing. I had a friend message me on Instagram when they saw I posted stories, and he's like, so what would you say was the big benefit of this, doing this every day for a year? And I said, well, I guess less likely to punch people. I was kind of making a joke of it, but in all honesty, it really was that I would say I became more calm and less reactive. And I did an episode about how I feel like I am calming down. I think this whole walking thing is a big part of it. You just feel more grounded. You feel better about yourself. So, you want to build confidence, self-esteem. That is also committing to something and following through. Doing something consistently. Like, this is just a huge part of the puzzle and part of the self-development piece. So I just felt like less reactive, less cranky. The thing that I really do want to point out is, I remember one day I hadn't done my walk, and I was like, oh, I gotta go out and do my walk. And it was like 9:00 at night. And I said this to someone, and they're like, oh my God, I wouldn't do that. Like, why I would just start walking on the spot and get my steps in. And I was like, oh no. This has nothing to do with the steps. Like, I don't actually measure steps. I'd sometimes check to see if I've done at least my 2 kilometers, but this was not about steps. It's great if you want to do your 10,000 steps. Fun thing about this 10,000 steps, someone just made that up. Like, that was just a catchy thing that I don't know where it originated from, but it was like, isn't this catchy? 10,000 steps, let's do it. It's not bad to do 10,000 steps a day. That's great. But someone just made that concept up, and it became almost like a marketing thing. So for me, this wasn't about the steps. This was about obviously the physical movement, but it was about connecting to nature more than anything else. Getting outside and outdoors and into fresh air, seeing the trees, listening to the birds, like looking at the sky, like getting into nature. I think the more we connect to nature, the happier and healthier we are. I mean, we all know, like, it's trending now to do this thing called forest bathing, which is very popular in Japanese culture. It's basically going into a forest, just getting into a forest, so getting into the trees. So that's what I was trying to do. I wasn't like measuring steps or anything like that. I've mentioned this before, but like Fitbits, Apple Watches, my idea of a nightmare, not interested. I just did kind of check in most days to see, or some days to see that I did at least the 2 kilometers if it wasn't my usual route, just to make sure I got that in. But yeah, it wasn't about the steps. I wasn't interested in measuring all that stuff. But obviously, the more steps you do, I'm sure it's better, it's great. But I had to keep this small, and I really happy that I kept it small because I knew that I was more likely to complete it, which I did. So I'm still going on this 2 kilometers after this recording. I'm going to head out on my little walk and continue with my small but manageable goal. And I'm really applying this to a lot of different areas of my life, in that I have some other goals I'm working on. I have one particular, what they call a BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal. And I'm so slowly chipping away at it. I have not put pressure on myself to accomplish it with a certain date in mind, or a hard date in mind. I kind of have a general date. I'm not going to beat myself up if I don't get a lot of it done in a particular day that I've set aside to work on it. I'm being a little kinder to myself. And so I do think making this smaller walking goal was also an exercise in being kind to myself. Again, acknowledging my bandwidth, but not putting the pressure on myself to be like, you've got to do more. You've got to do this 5 kilometers or 10,000 steps or whatever it is. I decided not to play that game. I'm really trying to consciously pull myself out of all these games that everyone's playing. These weird goals or expectations or things that we're supposed to achieve or do. Yes, we need to move. And I'm doing that. I'm doing what I said I would do. And I'm telling my brain that I will follow through with what I said I was going to do. And I'm being committed, consistent, disciplined, which again, disciplined always makes me think of like I went to daycare when I was like very young. I guess I was like 2 or 3 years old, and it was all run by Italian nuns. That was discipline, guys. That was discipline. I still have memories of that. They were very nice, but that was like, they were very Italian nuns. You know what I mean? So anyway, I hope this inspires you maybe to do your own walking challenge or do something consistently, because it will make you feel better about yourself if you do a small goal and achieve it. And here's the thing, you have to want to feel better about yourself. And that may sound crazy to say, but if you're someone who self-sabotages or doesn't necessarily follow through, there could be a part of you that does not want to feel good about yourself, that does not want to feel better about yourself. And I used to do that. I used to make sure that I screwed things up so that I could beat myself up, berate myself, and blah, 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 and tell this story about I'm not good enough, all that stuff. Yeah, I'm not doing that anymore. So this was me honoring myself, being nice to myself, kind to myself, and I hope you guys are kind to yourselves as well. Take care. Thank you for joining me today on Ditch the Struggle. You showing up here means so, so much to me. To dig deeper into the topics discussed today and to learn about my work, visit alanarosa.com. And don't forget to download your free resources while you're there. And if this episode resonated with you, please share with others who also want to ditch the struggle. Go ahead and subscribe to the podcast, leave a rating and a review, and let me know what you'd like to see more of on this podcast. And before I go, I want to leave you with my 3 favorite ways to ditch the struggle. Be your own best advocate, take baby steps for the win, and forget about a linear career path. It's overrated and you are doing just fine. See you next time.